Alina never expected her wedding day to begin with silence. The bridal room was filled with soft sunlight, white flowers, and the distant sound of guests arriving. Yet something felt wrong long before she understood why. Her phone vibrated on the dressing table while a makeup artist adjusted the final strands of her hair. Alina smiled politely at her reflection, trying to calm the nervous excitement fluttering in her chest. She had waited years for stability, for a life that felt certain. And today was supposed to be the beginning of that certainty. When the makeup artist stepped out to fetch something, Alina reached for her phone without thinking. The message waiting. On the screen changed everything in a single second. It was from Daniel. "I'm sorry I can't do this." At first she laughed quietly, assuming he was joking to ease his own nerves. Daniel was not dramatic. He disliked surprises and avoided emotional scenes. A message like that didn't fit him. She typed back quickly, asking where he was, but before she could press send, another message appeared. "Your sister told me the truth. I won't marry someone who planned to leave me." Alina stared at the words, unable to understand them. Leave him. She reread the message again and again, searching for meaning that refused to appear. Her hands trembled slightly as confusion turned into unease. Outside, someone knocked on the door, asking if she was ready. Alina answered yes automatically, though her mind had already begun racing through possibilities. She called Daniel. The phone rang once, twice, then went silent. He rejected the call. A cold feeling spread through her chest. She stood slowly, lifting the heavy fabric of her wedding dress, and stepped into the hallway. The cheerful noise from earlier had faded into whispers. Guests stood in small groups, their expressions uncertain. Her father was speaking urgently to a coordinator near the entrance. Her mother looked pale, clutching a handkerchief. And Daniel was nowhere to be seen. Alina walked faster, ignoring the curious looks following her. Near the entrance doors stood Mira, her younger sister, surrounded by relatives. Mira's arm rested gently around their mother's shoulders as she spoke in a soft, comforting tone. Anyone watching would think she was trying to hold the family together. But when Mira's eyes met Elena's, something flickered across her face. It lasted less than a second. A tiny spark of satisfaction quickly replaced by concern. Alina felt the ground shift beneath her. "What happened?" Alina asked, her voice steady despite the storm building inside her. Mira hesitated just long enough to be noticeable. "Daniel left," she said quietly. He found out something." "What something?" Mira lowered her gaze as if struggling to speak. "He believes you were planning to take a job abroad and end the marriage after today." The words sounded unreal, like lines from a stranger's story. "That's not true," Alina said immediately. "I told him maybe there was a misunderstanding." Mira continued softly, "But he showed me messages." "What messages?" Mira avoided her eyes. "I don't know all the details." Alina's heartbeat pounded louder than the murmurs around her. Daniel thought she had deceived him. Someone had convinced him she planned to abandon him, and the only person connected to both of them closely enough to do that stood directly in front of her. The wedding coordinator approached cautiously. "The groom has left the venue," she said, her voice careful. "He requested the ceremony be canceled." The sentence landed like a final blow. Guests began leaving quietly. Some avoided looking at Alina, while others offered sympathetic smiles that felt heavier than judgment. Within minutes, the celebration dissolved into confusion. Flowers remained perfectly arranged, music still playing faintly, but the meaning behind everything had vanished. Alina returned to the bridal room in a daze. She sat in front of the mirror again, still wearing the dress meant for a future that no longer existed. Her reflection looked unchanged, yet her life had split in two before and after. She called Daniel repeatedly. No answer. Finally, a message arrived hours later. "I trusted you." "I can't start a marriage built on lies." Lena typed long explanations, but each message showed as delivered without reply. The silence that followed felt deliberate, final, that night. She sat alone in her apartment surrounded by unopened wedding gifts. The quiet felt unbearable. She replayed every recent conversation, every moment she might have missed. Daniel had seemed distant during the past month, asking strange questions about her career plans, about whether she felt trapped by commitment. She had reassured him each time, believing he was simply nervous. Now she understood those questions came from doubts someone else planted. The next day, rumors began spreading. Relatives called asking gentle but probing questions. Some hinted she must have hidden something serious for Daniel to walk away so suddenly. Others offered advice she never requested. Each conversation chipped away at her confidence. Mira visited that evening carrying food and sympathy. She hugged Alina tightly, whispering how sorry she felt. Alina watched her carefully, searching for cracks in the performance. "Did you really tell him anything about me leaving?" Alina asked quietly. Myra looked shocked. "Of course not. Why would I do that?" The answer sounded perfect. Too perfect. Alina wanted to believe her. Mira was family. They had grown up sharing secrets, defending each other during childhood arguments, promising loyalty no matter what happened. Accusing her felt impossible. Yet doubt lingered. Weeks passed, and Daniel never returned. He moved to another city, refusing further contact. Eventually, a mutual friend revealed what he had been shown. Screenshots of conversations where Alina supposedly admitted she planned to marry him for stability, before leaving for a better opportunity abroad. The messages were convincing, except Alina had never written them. She stared at the screenshots for a long time. The wording sounded almost like her, but not quite. Small details were wrong, phrases she never used, decisions she never made. Someone had carefully constructed them, and only one person knew enough about her life to imitate her so closely. The realization arrived slowly but completely. Alina remembered small moments she had once ignored. Mira asking casual questions about her work emails, borrowing her phone briefly during family gatherings, insisting she deserved more attention after years of feeling overlooked. Alina had dismissed those comments as harmless insecurity. Now they formed a pattern. Her sister hadn't wanted Daniel. She hadn't tried to steal him. She had simply wanted Alina to lose something important. Understanding this hurt more than Daniel leaving. A stranger's betrayal could be explained, but a sister's required a deeper kind of intention. Alina stopped attending social events. She avoided conversations about the wedding. She focused on work, staying late at the office to escape the quiet of home. Nights felt longest, filled with memories she could not turn off. Anger came gradually, replacing sadness. Not loud anger, but controlled and thoughtful. She replayed Mira's expressions from the wedding day. The brief spark in her eyes, careful sympathy afterward. It had been planned. Every lie, every message, every doubt placed in Daniel's mind had been designed to collapse the life Alina was building. One evening, while cleaning her apartment, Alina found an envelope containing acceptance papers for an overseas position she had declined months earlier to stay close to Daniel. She held the document for a long time, realizing how much of herself she had already sacrificed for a future that disappeared. Overnight, something inside her shifted. For weeks, she had waited for closure from Daniel, for apologies from Mira, for someone else to fix what was broken. None of it came. The only thing left was choice. She could remain the person everyone pitied, the abandoned bride defined by betrayal, or she could become someone else entirely that night. Alina reopened the job offer and sent an email asking if the position was still available. The reply arrived the next morning. It was. As she packed her belongings over the following days, she felt lighter with each decision. Leaving wasn't escape. It was movement. For the first time since the wedding, she felt control returning to her life. Mira visited again before Elena's departure, acting surprised by this sudden relocation. "You're really leaving?" she asked. "Yes," Alina replied calmly. Myra forced a smile. "I just want you to be happy." Alina studied her sister's face carefully. The guilt she expected to see wasn't there, only relief hidden behind kindness. In that moment, Alina understood something clearly. Mira believed she had won. Alina said nothing. She hugged her sister goodbye, allowing the silence to hide the truth forming quietly inside her mind. The plane lifted into the sky later that night, carrying Alina away from the ruins of her wedding and the life she once trusted. As the city lights faded beneath the clouds, she closed her eyes and allowed herself one final moment of grief. Then she let it go. Not forgiveness, not yet just, acceptance that the person she had been no longer existed. Somewhere between heartbreak and clarity, a new version of Alina began to take shape, stronger, calmer, and far more observant. The betrayal had taken her future, her relationship, and her sense of safety. But it had also given her something unexpected: purpose. And though she didn't fully admit it to herself yet, a quiet thought followed her into the unknown. One day the truth would return, and when it did, she would be ready. Years passed and Alina learned how to live without looking backward. The new city reshaped her in ways she never expected. She worked long hours, accepted challenges others avoided, and slowly built a reputation as someone calm under pressure. Success did not arrive suddenly. It came through small victories, finished projects, earned trust, quiet confidence growing day by day. People admired her discipline, but none of them knew the real reason she never allowed herself to slow down. Work kept her mind away from memories she refused to revisit. Still, some nights, when the world became quiet, the past returned uninvited. The empty wedding hall, Daniel's final message, and Mira's careful expression of sympathy hiding something colder beneath. Alina told herself she had moved on, yet the truth was more complicated. She was no longer broken, but she was not healed either. The betrayal had changed how she saw people. Trust became something earned slowly instead of given freely. She listened more than she spoke, observed more. Then she reacted. Every decision felt calculated, controlled. Revenge was not a constant thought, but it existed like a shadow that appeared whenever she remembered how easily her life had been dismantled. One evening, after a successful presentation, her company announced she would represent them at an international conference held in her home country. The news stirred emotions she thought she had buried. Returning meant facing memories, familiar streets, and possibly Mira. For a moment, she considered refusing. But then she realized something important. Avoiding the past meant it still had power over her. She accepted the assignment without hesitation. When Alina arrived back home, the city felt smaller than she remembered. The streets carried echoes of another life, one filled with expectations she no longer recognized. She focused on work, preparing speeches and meetings, determined to treat the trip as purely professional. For 2 days, everything went smoothly. Then, during a networking event crowded with business leaders and journalists, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Alina. She turned slowly. Myra stood a few steps away. Time had changed her sister. The confidence she once displayed effortlessly seemed thinner now, replaced by nervous energy. Her smile appeared cautious, as if unsure it would be welcomed. For a brief second, Alina felt the old sting of betrayal, sharp but controlled. Mira. Alina said calmly. They exchanged polite greetings while strangers passed around them. Mira spoke quickly, asking about Elena's career, praising her success with enthusiasm that felt genuine yet uneasy. Alina listened quietly, noticing details she once ignored: the tiredness around Mira's eyes, the hesitation before every sentence, the way she avoided direct eye contact. "I didn't know you'd be here," Mira admitted. "You've done really well," Alina nodded. "I worked hard." An awkward silence followed. Years of unspoken truth hung between them like invisible weight. Mira finally suggested coffee the next day, and after a brief pause, Alina agreed. She wasn't sure why: curiosity, perhaps, or the need to finally understand. They met at a quiet cafe the following afternoon. Rain tapped gently against the windows while people moved past outside, unaware of the tension at the small table inside. Myra stirred her drink repeatedly without taking a sip. "I always wanted to explain," she said at last. Alina remained still. "Then, explain." Myra's voice trembled slightly. "I felt invisible growing up. You were always the responsible one, the successful one. Everyone trusted you, I thought. Something perfect in your life disappeared, maybe I wouldn't feel so small." The honesty surprised Alina. She expected denial, excuses, anything but vulnerability. "So you lied," Alina said quietly. Mira nodded, eyes lowered. "I didn't think it would go that far. I thought he'd confront you, that you'd argue and fix it. When he left, I panicked. I didn't know how to admit what I'd done." Alina studied her carefully. There was no triumph now, only regret mixed with fear. Hearing the confession did not erase the pain, but it clarified something important. The betrayal came from insecurity, not hatred. Still, damage remained. "Do you know what it cost me?" Alina asked. Mira's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, and I think about it every day." They sat in silence. Outside, the rain grew heavier. Lena felt anger rise, but it lacked the sharpness it once carried. Years of distance had softened its edges, replacing rage with something more complicated, understanding mixed with disappointment. During their conversation, Mira mentioned her current job, explaining how close she was to receiving a promotion that could finally stabilize her life. She spoke carefully, almost anxiously, as if afraid Alina might judge her. Alina listened, realizing something unexpected. With her current influence, she could easily interfere. One conversation with the right people could end Mira's opportunity, without anyone suspecting her involvement. The idea appeared suddenly, clear and tempting. Revenge within reach, for the rest of the evening. Alina barely heard the conversation. Her mind replayed possibilities. Justice, balance, consequences. Words that once fueled her anger returned with quiet intensity. Mira had destroyed her happiness without hesitation. Wouldn't fairness mean experiencing the same loss? That night, Alina sat alone in her hotel room, staring at the city lights outside. Her phone rested beside her, contacts open, opportunities waiting. She imagined how simple it would be. One decision, one action, and the scales would finally feel even. Yet another thought followed immediately. Would it actually change the past? She remembered the emptiness after Daniel left, the loneliness that followed humiliation. Inflicting the same pain suddenly felt less satisfying than she once imagined. Instead of relief, she sensed a heavy exhaustion. Revenge promised closure. But Alina wasn't sure closure worked that way anymore. She realized the real battle was no longer between her and Mira. It was inside herself, between the person shaped by betrayal and the person she had become through survival. As the night deepened, Alina understood that her next choice would define who she truly was. The decision followed Alina everywhere the next morning. She woke before sunrise, unable to sleep, her mind replaying every moment of the past and every possibility of the future. The city outside her hotel window slowly came alive, but inside, her room time felt frozen. Her phone rested on the bedside table, the contact she needed only one call away. She knew exactly what to say, exactly how easily Mira's promotion could disappear. Years ago, Alina had felt powerless while her life collapsed without warning. Now the balance had shifted. For the first time, she held control. She dressed carefully for the day's conference, moving through familiar routines while her thoughts remained unsettled. During meetings, she spoke confidently, answered questions smoothly, and earned praise from colleagues. Yet part of her attention stayed fixed on the decision waiting for her. Every success she experienced reminded her of the strength she had built after the betrayal. She had survived without revenge. Still, the memory of standing alone in her wedding dress refused to fade. After the conference ended, Alina walked through a quiet park near the river. The air was cool, and families passed by laughing, unaware of the conflict unfolding inside her. She sat on a bench and finally allowed herself to imagine both outcomes clearly. If she made the call, Mira would lose everything she had worked toward. The shock, the confusion, the humiliation, Alina knew exactly how it would feel. The thought brought a brief sense of satisfaction, sharp but fleeting. Then she imagined walking away instead. No punishment, no balance restored. Only acceptance that some wrongs could never be corrected. The second option felt heavier, but also calmer. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mira, asking if they could meet again before Alina left the country. Alina stared at the screen for a long moment before replying yes. She realized the decision could not be made alone with memories. It had to be made face to face with reality. They met that evening at a small restaurant overlooking the city lights. Mira arrived early, nervously adjusting her sleeve when Alina approached. The tension between them was quieter now, less sharp but still present. "I'm glad you came," Mira said softly. Alina sat across from her, studying her expression. She no longer saw the confident sister from years ago. Instead, she saw someone carrying guilt that never fully disappeared. They spoke about simple things at first: work, travel, family updates. The conversation felt almost normal until Alina finally interrupted the calm. "I know exactly how to ruin your promotion," she said evenly. Mira froze. Color drained from her face. "I could do it tonight," Alina continued. "No one would know it was me." The truth settled heavily between them. Mira lowered her eyes, accepting the possibility without argument. "I wouldn't blame you," she whispered. "I deserve it." The response surprised Alina. There was no defense, no excuse, only resignation. Mira looked tired, as if she had already punished herself for years. Alina waited for anger to rise again, but it didn't. Instead, she felt something unexpected: distance from the pain that once controlled her. The revenge she imagined for so long suddenly seemed small compared to the life she had built. "I wanted revenge for a long time," Alina admitted. "I thought it would fix what happened." Kara remained silent, listening carefully. "But losing everything forced me to become stronger," Alina said. "If I destroy your life now, I'm still living inside that moment. I don't want to stay there anymore." Myra's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to break your life." "You did," Alina replied gently. "But I chose what came after." The words surprised even her. Saying them aloud made something inside her settle for the first time in years. She realized revenge would tie her forever to the worst day of her life, while forgiveness, even incomplete forgiveness, allowed her to move forward. "I'm not doing anything to stop your promotion," Alina said finally. Myra covered, her mouth overwhelmed. "Thank you. I don't know how to fix what I did." "You can't change the past," Alina said. "Just don't repeat it." They finished dinner quietly. The conversation was not joyful, but it was honest. When they parted outside the restaurant, Mira hugged her carefully, unsure if the gesture was welcome. Alina allowed it, though forgiveness remained a work in progress rather than a finished decision. Later that night, Alina returned to her hotel and looked once more at her phone. The contact number that represented revenge still waited. She deleted it. A strange lightness followed, not happiness exactly, but relief. She realized revenge had been a weight she carried long after the betrayal ended. Letting it go did not erase pain. It simply stopped pain from guiding her future. Before leaving the country, Alina received a message from Daniel. He had learned the truth through mutual friends and wanted to apologize for believing lies without trusting her. Years earlier, she would have waited desperately for those words. Now, she read the message calmly. She replied with kindness, but no longing. Closure no longer depended on his understanding. On the flight home, Alina watched clouds stretch endlessly beneath the plane. She thought about how revenge promises satisfaction, but often prolongs suffering. The desire for payback had once given her purpose, yet choosing restraint gave her peace. She understood something clearly at last. Justice does not always mean punishment. Sometimes it means refusing to become the person who caused the hurt in the first place. When the plane landed, Alina stepped forward into her future without looking back. The betrayal remained part of her story, but it no longer defined its ending. And in choosing not to take revenge, she discovered the one thing she had truly wanted all along: freedom from the past.